Uh, Let us look at the PowerPoint that I was sharing with you. So we were looking at the summary of the different chapters of Rajmohan's Wife, this novel by Bankim Chandra Chattopadhyay, which we have in our syllabus. So on Saturday, I had completed, I think, up to this particular chapter, chapter 13, The Friends and the Stranger. So Matungini comes away from her husband's house. She meets her friend Konok, and obviously she is in a very traumatized and disabled state. And when she is talking with her friend, this woman who is employed in Mothur Ghosh's house, Suki's mother, she actually is a kind of a spy. She notices Matongini and she offers to take her to Mothur Ghosh's house. Now, uh, 13, chapter 13, The Protectress. This is titled The Protectress. So, here, Suki's mother brings Matungini to Mothur Ghosh's very big but a kind of a decaying palatial building. So, it is not looked after properly. Matungini is taken by Tara, Mothur's older, deeply compassionate first wife. So Mothur Ghosh has two wives. The first wife is Tara, and the second wife and the younger one is called Chompok. Now Tara is, we will learn later, actually, she knew Madhov because they were also playmates during their childhood days. And she obviously knows Matongini and treats her with immense kindness and offers her safe sanctuary. So, Madhav Ghosh actually Mothur Ghosh, sorry, Ghosh is more fond of his younger wife, that is uh, Chompok. He is not really fond of his older wife Tara, but he is fond of his younger wife. So here in this chapter, chapter 13, Matungini gets a kind of a shelter here in Mothur Ghosh's house. Chapter 14, now this is titled Between Rival Charmers. Between rival charmers, here we come to meet Chompok, who is the younger of the two wives of Mothur Ghosh. She doesn't like that Matungini has come here. She feels that she has been sidetracked, and the tense domestic dynamics within Mothur Ghosh's house, uh, we can see. Tara, the pious first wife, is contrasted with Chompok, Mothur's youthful, arrogant, and highly manipulative second wife, who uses her looks to control her husband. Now, she gets annoyed with her. Sohali, please mute yourself. So, as we see here, uh, Chompok is not at all happy with the situation, and she tells her husband that he has relied only on the report of Suki's mother while granting shelter to Matungini. So, she is not very happy about this. The fact that Matungini has taken shelter here. So obviously she complains to Mothur Ghosh. Uh, Now, Mathur Ghosh is vexed when Champak tells him to part with that woman or send her to her father's house. So here, kind of domestic tension arises. Chapter 15, Consultations and Counsel. The villainous Mathur Ghosh discovers that Matangini is staying in his zenana, or women's quarters, and driven by lust and greed, he sneaks into her room at night, attempting to seduce and intimidate her. So Matangini, obviously, she is a spirited woman and she fiercely repels him, matching his threats with her sheer willpower. So uh, now, as we can see here, this is a kind of a situation where uh, Matangini has to ward off the attentions of Mathur Ghosh, who is a villainous character. Chapter 16, What Befell Our Hero. Now, mm, the next morning, Tara goes to check on Matangini, only to find her room completely empty. Matangini has disappeared altogether, and obviously, Tara doesn't know anything about it. Actually, Mathur Ghosh has uh, taken her to a different part of the house and he has kept her there, locked her up. So now there is this problem that arises uh, with the disappearance of Matongini. Chapter 17, The Vigilance of Love. Now the narrative shifts focus to Madhav Ghosh, now who is portrayed as coming out late at night to track down his missing sister-in-law. So he has got the news of Matongini's disappearance and investigates his stolen documents. He is suddenly ambushed in the dark by Mothur's hired thugs, and he is also kidnapped. So here also in this chapter we see that Tara somehow senses that Mathur Ghosh is a kind of a restless, in a restless kind of a mind, and he can hardly sleep. He tells her that he is unhappy, but doesn't uh, really confide in her. Now she hears a kind of a hollow shriek, that of a screech owl. And Mathur Ghosh is startled, and soon he goes out of the house. Tara follows him stealthily to the secret vaults of the godown, where she sees her husband and Suki's mother emerging from that part of the house after some time. And Tara returns quickly to her own room. When Mathur Ghosh returns, she doesn't reveal that she has seen him going into that godown, which was reportedly an abandoned part of the house. Now, chapter 18 is Captors and Captive. Now, here we see what happens to Madhop. Now, Madhop is taken to that vault. He is captured by the hired goons of Mathur Ghosh, and he finds himself trapped in a dark subterranean godown storeroom beneath Mathur Ghosh's estate. So it's the same building where Matongini is also kept in a different room. Mathur arrives and brutally demands that Madhav sign away his property rights. And of course, Madhav does not comply. So Madhav obviously will not sign the document whereby he will grant the proprietorship of the will to Mathur. Now, Mathur Ghosh actually, now here actually the dacoits are captured later on, but not here. Chapter 19, Madhav and Tara. Now, Tara becomes suspicious of her husband's late night activities and she decides to explore the hidden corridors of the mansion. She locates the secret dungeon and manages to free Madhav. As they escape to an upper room, they hear a terrifying shriek and discover another locked room. So that is the room where Matongini is kept. So here Madhav and Tara, Tara rescues Madhav. And next chapter, some women are the equals of some men. So inside the locked room, Madhav and Tara find a starving, half-conscious Matongini. It is revealed that Suki's mother had betrayed her, locking her away so Mathur could starve her into submission. Matongini had vowed to starve herself to death rather than yield to Mathur's lustful advances. So here, Matongini is rescued by Tara and Madhav. So obviously, the story now comes to an end in the next chapter, the last chapter in Life's book, and in this. So the British authorities, the local police, they raid the estate. So this should be the last chapter. And realizing his crimes that have been totally exposed, Mathur Ghosh hangs himself to avoid shame and uh, prison term. Rajmohan and the dacoits are captured. Rajmohan turns state witness, but is ultimately transported. He is exiled to a penal colony along with the bandits. So, in the last chapter of this novel, a lot happens. The robber chief escapes, but Bhikkhu and Rajmohan are arrested by the police and they confess their part in the aborted dacoity. And obviously they reveal everything about Mathur Ghosh's involvement. So Mathur Ghosh has no option but to he tries to bribe the Irish policeman, but he does not succeed in doing so. So obviously he hangs himself from the ceiling of that same vault where he had imprisoned Madhav, his cousin. Now, there is a conclusion which is appended after this chapter, that is chapter 21, and where we see how pardon is granted to Vikhu and Rajmohan, and they are transported to for life to the Black Waters. Matongani returns to her father's house, where she unfortunately dies an early death, and Tara obviously lives. And she is a widow now. And later on, Madhav, Champak, and the rest also live their course of life. So, in this way, uh, the story or this novel comes to an end. Rajmohan's wife. So, it is, as you can see, a story where uh, it is a story of a time when the village society is portrayed, the mid 19th century village society. Now I will look at the main characters in Rajmohan's wife. So the first and foremost character is of course Matongini. Matongini is not only the heroine and central character of the novel, she is of course a remarkable woman. She is only 18 years old as when these events are portrayed. She is portrayed as a beautiful, intelligent, sensitive, and morally courageous woman. She is unfortunately trapped in an unhappy marriage with Rajmohan, but she maintains her dignity and integrity throughout the story. We observe how she silently suffers, and she is often very cruelly rebuked and assaulted by her husband, who wrongly uh, suspects her of having an affair with Madhav Ghosh, her uh, friend, childhood friend. Now, she is a silent sufferer, and the emotional strength makes her one of the earliest complex female characters in Indian English fiction. Her strength of character is very much evident. Matangini, when she takes that decision to go to Madhav's house and warn him about the impending dacoity, here she is taking a momentous decision. As a young woman who has to brave the terrors of the night and go through the jungle, of course, as she tried to do, she was in fact passing on information against her husband. She demonstrates her bravery and moral sense in this act. So Bankim Chandra, through her character, he tries to portray the kind of lives, which were led by many such young women, uh, housewives during those times in a patriarchal society of that particular time in Bengal. What was the social status and how they suffered? So this is a kind of her character is a kind of, you can say, a specimen which shows the readers the real condition of these women. Next comes this person Rajmohan. He is Matangini's husband and the main antagonist in this novel. He is portrayed as a very violent, selfish, jealous, and morally corrupt person. Now, his involvement with dacoits and his cruel treatment of Matangini obviously reveal his flawed personality. He has so many negative points in his character. He is a hot-tempered, violent kind of a person who does not think deeply but gets angry quickly. And he is very selfish. He is not hesitant to harm his benefactor, Madhav Ghosh, who has given him a shelter and a job. So he represents the darker side of patriarchal authority, where marriage becomes a tool of domination rather than love or companionship. So he is the most unsuitable husband, the most unsuitable person who could have been Matungini's husband. So obviously, we through this character we come to see a totally negative kind of a person, a portrayal of a totally negative person. His inability to understand Matungini's moral courage ultimately destroys their relationship, and obviously at the end of the novel he is transported because of his involvement in the plot. Next is Madhav Ghosh. Madhav Ghosh is Rajmohan's wealthy and educated relative and the man whom Matangini secretly admires. He is a gentle, respectable, and morally upright person, and he is portrayed as a complete contrast to Rajmohan. So he is we may say that he is the hero of this novel, but obviously the character of Matangini is such that no other character really comes close to her, and in respect of her, all the positive qualities that are depicted in her character, but still among the male characters, uh, Madhu is obviously a far better person than compared to the other ones. So he is not a boorish kind of uneducated person like Rajmohan or Mathur Ghosh. So he appreciates Matangini's sacrifice and bravery when he learns and when she comes to his house, but he remains passive and restrained because of social conventions. Obviously, he has married Matungini's younger sister, Hemangini, and he has to abide by the societal norms. His character symbolizes kindness and refinement, though his inability to actively support Matungini reflects the limitations of male characters within the traditional Bengali society of that time. So he is somewhat a passive kind of a character. He is a good character, obviously, a good and educated, handsome, obviously morally upright. Everything is good about him. But in this novel, we do not find him actively supporting Matongini, or in a sense, towards the end when he is confined to that room and Mathur Ghosh arrives and tries to force him to sign those papers, he shows some character and determination and not signing, and finally he is rescued by Tara, of course. But on the whole, if we have to assess his character, we will find that he is more or less a passive character, where he is sort of, we can say, things are being done to him, or he is not actively uh, influencing the story as such. Next comes his cousin, this villain in the story. Apart from Rajmohan, the main villain in the story, that is Mothul Ghosh, and he is one of the dacoits. Obviously, actually, he instigates. He's not the dacoit, but he is instigating the dacoits. He employs those dacoits, the Sardar and Vikhu. Uh, Mothur Ghosh's character is an example of suspense and crime. How Bankim Chandra introduces these elements of suspense and crime into the novel. While the dacoits symbolize restlessness, moral decay that was present, lawlessness in those times, Mathur Ghosh is an embodiment of that kind of, you know, those qualities. Now, number five is Hemangini. Hemangini does not appear much in this novel. She is Madhav's wife and Matangini's younger sister. She is affectionate and caring, though her role in the novel is limited. So we only meet her when Matangini comes at night to their house to warn them. Her relationship with Matangini highlights the emotional bonds between women within the domestic sphere. So the two sisters, obviously, they love one another very much, though, as we are informed at the beginning of this novel, that they are deprived of regular meetings. So because of Rajmohan's, cruel nature and his restrictions placed on Matungini's movements. Now we come to the dacoits. There are two main people here. The group of dacoits, they play an important role in driving the plot forward. Their planned attack on Madhav's house creates suspense and pushes Matungini into action. It is their action, of course. And you will remember how they come at an opportune moment when Matungini comes back from Madhav's house, and Rajmohan is almost about to kill her. Those two dacoits, they come jumping into the room through the open window, and they prevent Matongini's murder, as it were. So Matongini, they fall out with Rajmohan and they start to quarrel, and Rajmohan is captured, and Matongini is able to escape. She escapes certain death. So they also represent the atmosphere of insecurity and violence surrounding rural Bengal during this period. So obviously, the dacoits have their role to play. There are some supporting family members and servants. Several minor characters are there, including servants and villagers. Konok is there, who acts as Matongini's uh, childhood friend, a woman who is a bit older than Matongini, but Matongini, obviously, uh, she confides in her because she has no one to talk to, really, to pour her heart out, to talk about her suffering. There is Rajmohan's aunt, who appears only in the second chapter, not very much. Then this person uh, called Suki's mother, who is, of course, a spy and who uh, takes Matongini to Mathur Ghosh's house where she is confined. Then there is Tara, uh, Mathur Ghosh's elder wife, and Chompok, who is Mathur Ghosh's younger wife. Both of them are differently portrayed. Tara is compassionate, kind towards Matongini, while Chompok is not a very good-hearted woman. So this is the kind of a realistic portrayal of 19th century Bengali domestic and social life during those times. So this makes up the novel. Now, the importance of the characters, obviously, they are the characters. They are not only individuals, but they are symbolic representations of larger social ideas as such. Matongini represents female courage, morality, silent resistance. We have seen that. If you have to assess Matongini's character, you have to really, right from the start of the first chapter, how she goes out with Konokmoi to draw water from the river, and from the moment how she resists all the oppression that is inflicted on her. So we have to talk about all these, if we have to talk about or analyze Matongini's character. So a lot can be uh, said about Matongini. So uh, next comes Rajmohan, who is kind of a good for nothing fellow, symbolizing patriarchal oppression and moral corruption. Obviously, Rajmohan is a person who is also a person who is not grateful to Madhav for his assistance. Madhav Ghosh reflects moral goodness, but also male passivity. We have seen that. The dacoits represent social disorder and criminality. Mathur Ghosh, of course, is the evil character, the villain in this novel, and he is justly punished because he has to die in the end. So these characters help Bankim Chandra explore themes such as gender inequality. So this is one of the themes in the novel, gender inequality that is uh, very much there in this novel. And in those times, obviously, there was no equality among the male and female individuals in society. So that can be seen how Matongini is treated, and in general how women were treated. So in their own households, sometimes they might hold a little bit of power, like Chompok, but on the whole, their lot or their conditions were not uh, very happy ones. So there is this question of morality, domestic suffering is there portrayed through Matongini's sad plight, and the conflict between personal desire and social duty. So personal desire and social duty, that is portrayed in Madhav's character. So Madhav may be fond of, or he might like Matongini, and Matongini also likes Madhav, but obviously they are married to different people, so they cannot marry or stay together. So it is a kind of the social compulsions, the social duties that uh, keep them apart. So with this, I come to the summary of this particular novel, and next I will move on to the uh, critical analysis of this novel. the critical analysis. Let us look at the PPT. So chapter by chapter, we'll do this. Uh, in this class today, I will look at chapter 1, the first chapter. The first chapter, as you know, here we are introduced to the main character, that is Matongini. It acts as a foundation for both the narrative and its thematic preoccupations. Bankim Chandra introduces his readers to the rural setting of Bengal, sketching a calm pastoral backdrop that contrasts with the emotional and moral unrest that unfolds throughout the novel. So, what Bankim Chandra does here, he is giving us a rural background, which is a very calm and quiet kind of a village. As we come to see it, the village of Radhaganj in East Bengal, as it is mentioned, but the events that would unfold in that quiet village would be far from calm and quiet. Now, this juxtaposition of outer tranquility and inner turbulence becomes a recurring motive. So, the on the whole, inside the houses, life goes on in a very calm and contented way. For example, in Madhav Ghosh's house or even in Mothur's house, uh, life goes on, and the women folk in the house, they also remain in a very kind of a passive and uh, in a tranquil kind of a situation. But obviously, there is an inner turbulence in the mind of Matongini, which is portrayed by the novelist, and it becomes the kind of a motive. A motive is something, an image or some kind of a symbol that occurs again and again in a particular piece of literary work. So this comes always the life that goes on in Radhaganj, but the life of one particular young woman is in a state of turmoil. One that underscores the novel's engagement with appearance versus reality, especially in the realm of domestic life. So Matungini appears to be uh, happy kind of a woman, but ultimately what we come to know, she is not at all happily married to Rajmohan, and the appearance versus reality, it comes to the fore. So the kind of turmoil that goes on in her household, in her psyche, mind, that is brought into focus by the novelist. Now, in terms of the style that is employed, the prose style or the narrative style that Bankim Chandra employs here, he writes in an elaborate Victorian prose that reflects the influence of British literary traditions. So, in the introduction, I had said, when I had given you the introduction to Bankim Chandra, how he, this is his only English novel, and how he, like Madhusudan Dotto, how he was influenced at first by the English writers and the Victorian novelists. So the renowned Victorian novelists, and the Victorian period is famous for its novels. So obviously Charles Dickens, Thackeray, George Eliot, Trollope, then Elizabeth Gaskell, and many other novelists were there, George Meredith. So during those times, it is a period of novel writing and a flourishing, a kind of a era. So Bankim Chandra read some of these works, and obviously he was influenced by the narrative style. So his dense, descriptive passages reveal his command over English and his efforts to mimic the style of 19th century English novelists. So he is influenced by their style and the Victorian style of novel writing. So, though of course he writes English fluently, he is an erudite and well educated person, and still we cannot call this mere imitation. It is not mere imitation that Bankim Chandra was imitating the Victorian novelists when he was writing Rajmohan's wife. He is adapting these conventions to reflect the Bengali context. So the setting, the characters, everything, you know, the incidents that are happening, everything is happening in this rural Bengali background. But Bankim Chandra, what he is doing, he is adapting these English conventions to the uh, context of the 19th century Bengali context, the later 19th century Bengali context. So the descriptions of the landscape, very full of quite full of trees, fields, and the murmur of rivers. They offer more than scenic beauty. They foreshadow the emotional undercurrents in the lives of these characters. So it is, we can say, a kind of a intermixture of the narrative style that he uh, adopts here. The scene is of rural Bengal, but the style, the narrative style is somewhat different. It is similar to the Victorian style. And in the first chapter, of course, we are introduced to Matangini, who is the protagonist, the main protagonist and the heroine of this novel. Interestingly, Bankim Chandra does not uh, name this novel Matangini. He has named this novel Rajmohan's wife. Now, why did he do that? He could have named this novel Matangini. Uh, there was no problem in doing that. But I think that maybe by not naming this novel, Matangini, he was in fact trying to show us the inferior position, the social status that the women folk occupied in the those households in Bengal during that time. So the how they were suppressed and they were oppressed. So obviously she has to be known as Rajmohan's wife. The Rajmohan is really a villain in the novel. So a novel is not named really after a villain. It should not be named after villains. But here Bankim Chandra does this. So that might be the reason because Matangini is the heroine of this novel. So she is Rajmohan's wife. Though she is not named in the title, it is her story. The story that we read is her story, Matangini's story, right from the beginning, first chapter to the last one, when she dies, unfortunately, at a very young age. And the fact remains that Bankim Chandra was uh, trying to portray a young woman who was very, really an extraordinary individual. And it is rarely that we come across such women in novels, Bengali novels. Of course, if you read some of his Bengali novels, you will find spirited heroines, Kapal Kundala, Durgesh Nandini. I think there are other novels, Anandamot. Maybe you have read some of his novels, Bengali novels, I mean. You will find such characters. So, Matangini, she is in the first. though the novel is written in English. She is the first of, like that of the character of that kind. Now, she is obviously beautiful, intelligent, emotionally complex woman, and kind of a suffering woman. From the outset, she is presented in a way that subtly critiques the restrictive roles allotted to women in traditional Indian society. So I was trying to emphasize on this point. The kind of role that she is a breaker, or she is a person who breaks down the traditional roles assigned to women by not listening to, uh, you know, her husband's orders not to go uh, not to go outside. So from the very first glimpse, she appears as a kind of a rebel, we can say. Though she justifies herself later on, and this requires a lot of courage and strength of character. So this first chapter, it is really a real eye opener in terms of the character of Matongini. So she is a character through whom Bankim Chandra, he criticizes the restrictive roles allotted to women in traditional Indian society. So her silence, she is silently bearing all the insults, the rebukes of her husband, and she does not flinch from his, all these insults, and she withdraws somewhat, inner withdrawal, mental withdrawal, and her watchfulness. These are not signs of passivity, but indicators of a deeper inner world. So she is a very watchful and intelligent woman, because later on we understand how she foils that robbery bid by uh, overhearing the conversation between Rajmohan and the dacoits. So she's neither rebellious. Portrayal of Matongini is nuanced, one means it has a kind of a different connotations. Neither rebellious nor submissive. I would not say that. Uh, she is rebellious to some extent, though she says that it is not a something that she shouldn't have done. So here, obviously, Rajmohan is not introduced in this chapter. It is introduced in the later chapter. So we come to meet, in fact, Konok Moi, who is Matongini's sister, and she is an important character in the sense that she is the only kind of confidant, the only person with whom Matongini can talk freely. She is restricted at home. She cannot go out. She is confined, and only when she is with Konok, she can talk freely about about the emotions, the pent up emotions that have welled up inside her heart. So, obviously, here uh, we, in the first chapter, we are introduced to these two uh, young women, and one of them is Matongini, the heroine, and the second is Konok Moi, who is her childhood friend. So here, these, the story opens with this kind of a tension that is quite evident in the domestic relationship, with the marital relationship that Matongini has with her husband, Rajmohan, because she is clearly hesitant at first. When Konok comes and asks her to accompany her to draw water from the pool or river. She is hesitant. She does not want to go, but ultimately she is persuaded to do that. So she is not a full rebel as such, but she is sort of she has that streak of rebellion in her, because her condition, as we can see, it is extremely dismal and sad. So I will stop here today, and I will continue tomorrow, of course. uh, I have something to tell you.
Sir,